Hey everyone, it's Friday and you are here at Litvak Leadership Live, and I am here with my new friend, hopefully by the end of this show, good friend, because she's going to fill us with knowledge, Jen Belk from Loom Coworking. Hey Jen, how you doing today?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So Jen was actually recommended to be on the show by a member of the mastermind group that I'm in, Megamind. Carolyn Mall had been in Jen's facility. And while she was there, she sent me a video message and said, "You have got to interview this woman. I'm going to send you her information and introduce you to her." So Jen, I've got really, really high expectations today.
She is a kindred spirit. I mean, walked in, I just wanted to hug her.
Carolyn, she is a basket of energy and good ideas. So she was a lot of fun to interview and just fun to talk to. So I got to ask you first,
Okay.
why Loom? I think I know, but tell everybody.
Okay, so the whole mouthful is Loom Co-working Gallery and Event Space. But Loom we're located in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is a mill town right outside of Charlotte that has grown tremendously. But we're all about kind of the heritage and the history. And it is really steeped in the textile industry. But it's also a metaphor of weaving people and talents together to make something functional and beautiful.
So when I was looking at your website, you're weaving people together and opportunities together and function together. So what kind of folks rent out space, for lack of a better term? I'm sure there's a better term than that, but what kind of businesses, artisans, what is it?
A little bit of everything. So the co-working end of it is membership based. So it's like a gym. So depending on how much you see yourself being here, if you need a dedicated desk or just need to pop in every once in a while, or just use the podcast studio, whatever it is. But, some are entrepreneurs, some are slashies, which means they do this, which I think is how I would describe you. We have a lot of people that are just like district salespeople for some national brand, that kind of thing. So a little bit of everything. As far as our event users of the space, because one of the things we found is not everybody makes their living sitting behind a computer.
Sure.
So that's why we got our second building, so that we could help facilitate people that facilitate leadership training, people that teach art classes and music classes and all of those sorts of things that are very space-based and can hinder the development of your company and your business because that's such a huge investment.
Sure. I can certainly see that. Let's talk about the membership for a second, because when I was looking at that, and I've got it up here on video for everyone. So there's like full-time hot desking, and
Yes.
I am there's people embracing COVID and all that it means that we shouldn't do, and then there's people who are saying let's just live life normal. I'm probably closer to normal than embracing, but I'm not totally normal. I am on a continuum. But is anyone really hot desking anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we found, though, people are creatures of habit. So even though it's hot desking, most everybody, they know where they like to sit, and we got one that wants to be close enough to bounce ideas off of me, and one that wants to be tucked away in what I call the man cave. And we're creatures of habit. So we do have a couple of dedicated desk people. There's Aaron sitting at where it says dedicated. And he needs his own space. He has to have his own printer. He has to have a hard line for security, all of that kind of thing. But really, most people, they like the opportunity to, take a stretch and go work in the lounge or go work at a high top table or at our outside spaces or whatever. We are sanitizing a lot.
Yeah,
and
sure.
like I said, most everybody they're creatures of habit. So they tend to hang in the same spot. And even if they're only there 2 days a week, most people are actually respecting that even though you're not a full timer, That's Scott Spot.
So what kind? Yeah, it's kind of like when you go to church, and if there's
That's
visitors,
exactly what I tell people.
and you go to your seats,
Your
and
seat.
there's people sitting there, and it's like, okay, I love God, I love God. I'm sitting somewhere else. Here we go. For all I know, these people, they've never been to church. I need to move somewhere else.
That's right. That's right.
So when I think of co-working, I guess I think of like people going to work somewhere and, kind of like roaming the halls with ideas. This is probably totally wrong, and collaborating with strangers. Does that ever happen?
Except for the strangers part.
Okay.
These guys are so good at just kind of getting in there and plugging in. Plus, the whole 6 degrees of separation thing. Fort Mill is more like maybe a 2 degrees of separation.
Okay.
So, around me, this guy lives in the neighborhood next to me, and his across the street neighbor has been my daughter's best friend for 15 years. The guy that sits behind me, they go to school together, all of that kind of thing. So, as soon as they come in, we have, a what are you all about conversation. And there's I call it gophering, when somebody hears something that they're interested in and they pop their head above the cubicle and interject something. And so that happens really fast. But it's nice, especially because I call it an office without the politics, without the drama.
Sure.
Nobody works for anybody else. Nobody's vying for the same position, that kind of thing. And having an outside opinion about things. So I've got a guy that sits beside me and he has a doctorate in analytics. Okay.
Wow.
I don't understand half the things he does, but he's really good at breaking it down for simple people, right? And so he'll have something, but he knows that I used to be a professor. So if he is supervising someone and needs to bounce something off of me about training or orienting a new intern or whatever, it's not about what the topic is, the subject matter of an analyst kind of thing.
Sure.
It's about people, and people are people. And so he'll bounce kind of an idea off of me about how to handle something with one of his subordinates. And I can help him as a third party. I have no stake in it, kind of thing. And that's nice to have.
So I'm sure you have a lot of entrepreneurial folk working there. So hearing and interacting with all these different entrepreneurs who've got, anywhere from mission-driven focus to whacked way out there ideas, what has that taught you about leadership?
Customization of things. Like I said, it's all kind of contextual. There are some people that are, like I said, really just here because they can't concentrate because their kids and their dogs,
Okay.
They already have a plan with their company, but some that come in with a general idea, or maybe they're still working part-time or full-time in, we call it corporate refugees. So you did your 20 years at the bank and now you're following your passion. And, they're just wanting maybe that little kick in the pants, or connection or funding opportunities or whatever it is to really jump off of that. I love anecdotes. When people come in, I don't like talking conceptually about growth and entrepreneurship and all that. I like walking them up and saying, here is Wes. He used to work for a corporation, went out on his own, started doing contract work, started his own company, hired somebody. This was all while he was working out of our space. Hired somebody, started a podcast in like 2 months, had national sponsors. And now he has graduated. He has outgrown us, which is the goal. And still pops in every once in a while, just when he needs, a little pat on the back. And but has his own office now with a huge video studio.
That's amazing. That's a great story. So when you first started the business? Because I hear you talk about two buildings. Was it always two buildings, or did you start with
No.
one and demand drove you to a
Yeah,
second
I tell
place?
people that market research for this meant absolutely nothing because
Tell us about that.
people didn't know what co-working was. So even to this day, 80% of my marketing is just the concept. Is not even just, I say it's like church. You don't care if anybody goes to your church as long as they go to church, kind of
Sure.
thing. So there's not a lot of competition between the co-working communities because we're all supporting the same concept. But when we first started out, it was we need desk space kind of thing. But something real. I wanted contemporary. I wanted flexible. We have an amazing corporate business partner, which is Alfred Williams. They're the Herman Miller dealership,
Oh,
who
okay. Yeah.
has provided everything in the main building, which was, would have been 80% of my startup costs, and they're amazing. So when we first started, it was like desk space was really what was on our minds. We moved into a small building because the building that was the goal was not built yet, but it was ready to go. It was just red dirt. And so we started for 6 months actually in this building while the other one was being built. And it was a great guinea pig, right? So we got in here, I watched how people rigged stuff. You go in and they've got their laptop stacked on a stack of books. You're like, well, we need some desk risers. Just kind of watching. We weren't going to have a podcast studio necessarily. We didn't think it was needed here. The first 3 times that this meeting room was booked was for recording something. One was like the Rotary Club scholarship interview, not necessarily like an official podcast, but something where they needed this kind of facility.
Sure.
So after a few times, we were like, well, I guess we need a podcast studio. So there's been a lot of that kind of thing. We moved into the other building and vacated here. Thank God that nobody actually rented this space. It sat empty. We ran off a couple of people that looked at it. And luckily we did because, like I said, we found that we needed training space. There's a roofing company, Merit Roofing, that's doing a 2-week training of all of their new employees. Well, I'm not going to take a workspace for that. I wanted to have somewhere where they can be as loud as they want to, embarrassing HR, games, icebreakers, that
Sure.
kind of thing, but they can use it as they need it to. So yeah, this is the building where we can spill and get loud and all of that. And all of that came from, like I said, music teachers, art teachers, dance teachers approaching us about their needs.
So it sounds like that there's really a lot of camaraderie amongst everyone who works there. I mean, I'll tell you, in the mastermind group that I'm in, we're a bunch of salespeople and marketing individuals from all across the U.S. and Canada, and none of us compete. We're all in different parts of the country. We're all in different industries for the most part. And it's really great to have that outside opinion that you can discuss things with. Now, for us, it's been, COVID is what brought us together because we're doing everything remotely, although we had one gathering, but that's another story. I mean, how has COVID affected the camaraderie of the individuals that use your facility?
Well, like I said, we've had a few new in really just the last several weeks. And so that always breathes new life into things. So that has been really interesting. Once COVID started in March, all of our most of our rentals just, scrapped. They weren't doing corporate training anymore. All the big social events, because one of our spaces holds 100 people, all of those just canceled.
Sure.
We have 3 churches that meet out of our space, and they went remote immediately. But then we had a couple of other churches that didn't have the ability to do streaming from where they were. So they came in on Wednesday nights or whatever. So it was kind of like different uses of the space happened. Certainly not as much as it was. I mean, we got hit pretty hard, but different uses. One-on-one dance classes. A lot of mental health workers. The occurrence of mental health issues in remote workers, remote students now, all of that. And people aren't comfortable doing therapy and things in other people's houses right now. So having kind of a neutral space where you can spread out, that kind of thing, where you can feel safe and not be in somebody else's space is helpful. So it's morphed kind of the types of uses.
So the people who first enter your space for co-working, working remotely, they can't deal with it at home. They got to get to a space. How do you counsel them as to the community and the culture within your facility?
Right. I think that's totally up to what their needs are. So we don't do the book your tour on an online calendar thing. I refuse to do that. I want to talk to you on the phone at least. I want to talk to you on the phone and look at you on LinkedIn so that I can see who we have in common and I can start relating to you. See what you're.
Hence why you're on this show today.
Yeah, so. I love, if I can see, I went to Auburn, that there's some kind of connection there or something, some nonprofit that they've worked with or some kind of connection. When they come in, we don't tour. We go sit down in the lounge. We start talking about, what does your typical day look like now? What's your past life? I always ask what that is because everybody that comes in here has transitioned from something. Where do you live? We've all got kids, that kind of thing before we ever get to touring the space and that kind of thing. By the time we tour the space, I have more of an idea of what they need to see.
Okay.
We have some members that have never booked any of our private meeting rooms because their business just doesn't need it. Whereas there are some of them that have a lot of confidentiality things and they book that or they get back in one of the niches and that kind of thing. If I know somebody travels a lot, I'm not going to talk to them about full-time dedicated desk. I'm going to talk to them about the flexible plans and the everything's monthly. I'm going to really accentuate that kind of thing to them. As far as the culture, I want them to see it when they come in. I don't want to tell them about it. Now, we do have like a ridiculously extensive frequently asked questions on the website because some people aren't as social and really want to know what they're getting into before they come.
Sure.
But just walking them around, and if I can get them to talk to a couple of people, which we've got members that have been members since 2 months before we opened, and they know the tour probably better than I do. But when they can jump in and throw in an anecdote or say, oh, I live in Baxter Village as well. Where do you, and really kind of do that, then they know what it's going to be like when they get here. And, when you are so unplugged with your community right now because of COVID and everything, walking into a place where we all get it, 70% of our members are over 40. I have one child, some of them have 5, and we all get it on some level. So it's just nice to walk in. The culture has evolved, certainly, based on who we have work out of the space and that kind of thing. But in general, we have a couple of members who are really kind of my rocks, that were there the day we dedicated the building, that I have this one picture from the day that we moved into the other building, and we had a moving party. I was like, I'm not hiring movers. I got you guys. And so we moved all the furniture of the other building, had pizza, dedicated the building with my pastor that was there. And then I went off to clean or do something. And I came back, and 4 of our original members were all sitting in the corner in the lounge, sharing their testimonies with each other.
Wow.
And I sat down on the floor, like, listening. And my husband snuck in and took a picture of all of us sitting there. And, it's the only furniture that was set up in the whole place. And they all gathered, like a little fireside chat, and we're sharing. And I was like, I left that day I'm tearing up as we speak. I left there going, okay, they are laying the foundation, for the culture that we want here. And a couple of them have moved away to Louisiana, to Tennessee, that kind of thing. They're still piping in on Facebook, go, miss you guys. But that culture carries over.
So how long have you been open?
We opened in June of 16, so over here. And then we were fully in our 2 buildings and established and all of that the following summer. So it's been about 4.5 years or so. And but the community really started drumming up about 6 months before that, having meetups and that kind of thing.
So you talk about how some people have graduated and other people have been with you since before you even opened the doors. The ones that have been with you since before you even opened the doors, what kind of businesses are they in?
So Robert is one. He's my, I guess, my work husband. He's always here. Is here before I get there. He really influenced a lot of the building itself. We have a shower because of Robert. He likes to ride his bike in the middle of the day, and we had an extra janitor's closet. So we were like, Robert needs a shower. So, but he is a sales rep for it's HR software company, and used to travel a whole lot more than he does. But his wife is an artist, so he really loves the artistic. We have a formal art gallery and student work. His daughter is an artist and was one of my students about 15 years ago. And so very plugged in. I mean, I have his wife on speed dial, but he's also involved in, several ministries in the area, and he really kind of ups everybody's health game in the space, if we need accountability for exercise or that kind of thing. And it's just super, super welcoming.
So you talk about his daughter being one of your students in art. And I saw, looking at your LinkedIn profile, that you've been in interior design. So what has your journey been from, we'll say, with art, being an art student, whenever that was, probably no more than 12 years ago, to now being, a real estate magnet, whatever the proper term is, bringing people together. What were the threshold points along the way?
It's the coolest thing, because it's like my life makes sense now. You have all these little kind of micro careers, and then you're doing something where everything comes together, and you're like, oh, that's why that happened. I started college 29 years ago. And it's interesting because there are professions and aspects of different people's careers that didn't exist when I started college.
Oh, yeah.
So we talked about, facility management and that kind of thing. The ADA didn't exist when I started college. It was passed that year. Green design, we didn't have any classes on that. So it was something that I didn't know I was getting into, but was really developing when I was kind of in that malleable stage. When I graduated and started working for a commercial construction and design company, we did a lot of corporate offices, corporate real estate all over the US. And at that time, rental rates were crazy high. Okay. This was like 96 to 99 kind of thing. And people started realizing, oh, our people are getting to be more mobile. We don't need all this square footage. And so there were big companies that started kind of approaching the hoteling kind of thing.
Sure.
So that's what I've always known is, all right, this isn't working. This is too expensive. How can we use the space better to help everybody socially, community wise, fiscally, all of that kind of thing. Then after I finished my master's and I got certified, I started teaching. And that's when the community portion came in. Working with students to get them plugged in. Freshman orientation, favorite 2 weeks of the entire year. Helping the students to get plugged in, know the leadership opportunities, the social, the artistic opportunities, all of that sort of thing, the growth, so that they can graduate later. So it's putting those two things together. It's just with an older, more mature demographic. So it's just awesome putting those things together. So all the things that I was really passionate about when I was teaching, I still get to do, and also get to work with some amazing alumni from the school that I had when they were, student leaders. And now I see them at entrepreneurial pitch events and all this sort of thing, which is so just, I believe that I probably have more mentors or people that encourage me, even if they don't know it, that are half my age.
So, what is a couple of the nuggets of wisdom that you've gotten from these mentors?
I think one, just seeing their enthusiasm, and I don't know if it's because of how mobile we are or the internet or whatever it is, but they don't see restrictions. Anything is possible. And sometimes I think the older we get, the more, ornery and in a silo we get. And so just seeing that. And it keeps me, I love connecting people. And it's really interesting. Recently, I've been recommending a lot of, 25 and under people that I know as consultants and as mentors and things like that. Well, I know them, I really know them. And it's wonderful to be able to do that. There is a fraternity at Winthrop it's the one male African American fraternity. It's national, and those young men are amazing.
Okay.
I mean, the growth within the amount of nonprofit work, what they do when they graduate. We've got some that are, in the Senate now, and it's just amazing. And you're like, wow, this person is, like I said, less than half my age, and look what they've accomplished. And there's nothing more, I think, encouraging than that. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've gone almost 29 minutes on a 30-minute show. So it goes so fast. So as you reflect on your business, the journey, and thinking about encouraging the audience that's live now and those that'll come back and watch this on replay, what words of encouragement do you have to send people into the weekend?
It's whether it's business or just life or raising a kid or whatever it is. I think that being personal, individualizing services, how you work with people, and really getting to know whether it's your underlings at work or your boss or your coworkers or your students, really getting to understand what their needs are. That it's not about me and the business that I want to run. It's about the people that are coming in and what they need. I think if you can stay with that mindset, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's going to apply, and it becomes easier and easier and becomes your just your natural reaction to things, the more you do it. So.
I love that. That's great. That's great. Jen, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you.
This has been a very calm yet educational conversation. I know I took a bunch of notes of things that weekend to apply to my own life. And I'm sure others are going to be doing the same thing as they watch this on replay. I watch a lot of videos as I'm walking the dog. Well, really listen, but whatever, you know what I mean. So thank you again for being my guest. And everyone, if you're in York County, South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And you need somewhere to work for the day. Well, you want to go get online and find loomcoworking.com. And tell Jen that you saw her here, and that's why you're in this in her place. That's it for today and for the week, everyone. We'll be back Monday with another guest from another part of the country in a different experience, but yet still talking about leadership. Everyone have a great weekend and be blessed. Bye now.